How's it going, guys? I'm Matt Torx, and today on my challenge to play every game in the Fallout franchise and rank them all on a tier list at the very end, we arrive at the gun-toting western and favorite child of the series, Fallout New Vegas. A game widely regarded as the best in the series, and seen as a masterpiece by most. But what makes this game in particular so loved, and what can Fallout games in the future learn from it? Well, today I hope to answer that question for those unfamiliar. But first we have to know how exactly this game came to be in the first place. After Bethesda's acquisition of the Fallout franchise and the release of Fallout 3, the studio wanted to shift focus back to the Elder Scrolls IP, since that was what they were more familiar with. So they went into a long development with Skyrim, their biggest project yet, and not wanting to keep the Fallout franchise dormant for too long, they passed the responsibilities on to a new developer, Obsidian Entertainment. Since Obsidian Entertainment was founded by some of the members of Black Isle, one of the developers of the original two Fallouts, they knew exactly what the franchise needed when it came to building a rich world with a great story and characters. And because the game was built off the Fallout 3 engine, the game at the time was able to hit that perfect balance between the good gameplay Bethesda had brought and the role-playing elements from the OG games. What came from this fusion was none other than New Vegas, a game set in the Mojave wastelands of Nevada and the desert surrounding, where the factions of this area fight for the scarce resources the desert has to offer, and over their differing ideals. All while our character, the Courier, gets caught in the middle of it. So come with me as I play Fallout New Vegas. The intro of this game sets things up right off the bat, as the two forces of the NCR and Caesar's Legion, two groups that we'll get to know later, battle over the Vegas Strip, the crown oasis of the Mojave, a place dedicated to the sin and vices of the inhabitants within. Meanwhile, we, the player, find ourselves facing almost certain death as Benny, a man in a checkered suit, robs us of our platinum chip, a strange object that we were sent to deliver across the desert to a man in New Vegas. But we were stopped by Benny and his gang of cons. The intro ends with Benny pointing his pistol at us as he utters one of the most memorable quotes the series has to offer.
Where you're kneeling must seem like an 18-carat run of bad luck. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Before pulling the trigger and leaving us for dead. A completely unique intro in this series, since instead of us being a member of a vault or a village, on a mission to find our family or save our people, we instead get to be a mailman who got shot in the head on a mission, no other background or responsibilities. Getting into the actual game, we wake up in the house of Doc Mitchell, an older man who tells us that after we got shot, he was able to perform surgery and prevent our death. But he wants us to make sure he got everything right, prompting us to create our character, name them, and pick our stats accordingly, as well as our perks. We then get to leave the Doc's house and venture into the town of Goodsprings. In order to better equip ourselves and accommodate for the desert, we talk to a person within the town, Sunny Smiles. What makes this game really interesting is that the quests that Sunny gives us actually serve as the tutorial of this game, as the things that she sends us to do range from shooting some bottles to breaking our legs on purpose to learn healing. But what's nice about this tutorial compared to other games is that it's a completely optional side quest, as opposed to a mandatory part of the early game. Up next we stop in the town saloon and witness a member of a blue-vested group called the Powder Gangers threatening the saloon owner. Upon asking her, she says that the Powder Gangers have been searching for a caravan guard within the town for a bit now, and that we can find him within the nearby gas station. We propose to him to help us drive the Powder Gangers for good, and help free Goodsprings. But one thing that should be noted is that since this game never forces you to be a good or bad character, you also get the option to instead help out the Powder Gangers take over Goodsprings. But I decided to help the citizens of Goodsprings this time, and gather the support of people like Sunny and the resources of citizens like a prospector named Easy Pete for his free dynamite. When we were all ready, we gathered in the center of town for a good old-fashioned shootout. But since explosives usually triumph over bullets, we beat the gangers and upgrade our status in the eyes of Goodsprings. And from here on out, our mission becomes to travel across the desert and get revenge on the man who shot us. Now from the very beginning of this game, you can see the New Vegas Strip, as it beckons you in with its size and bright lights not too far in the distance to the east. But in a stroke of map design genius, getting there actually requires you to go all the way around the map and circle your way back around. Now technically you can make the run to this strip straight from Goodsprings through this path, but actually doing so requires making your way through a giant quarry filled with dangerous deathclaws, a fact made aware to the player as soon as they get too close. Choosing to ignore these warnings almost always results in imminent demise. I make my way to the town of Prim, a collection of old casinos and hotels down south. We learn from one of the citizens that a group of raiders who escaped from the NCR, a militaristic faction that believes in bringing order to the Mojave through firepower and bureaucracy, have seized control of one of the hotels, and he wants us to take it back. So we just barely fight our way through the convicts and rescue the deputy of the town trapped within. We also get a nice new weapon called the incinerator to help better kill things. Before we leave the town, the man who told us about the convicts tells us that Benny was headed to the town of Nipton, so that's where I go next. When heading into Nipton for the first time, you can immediately tell that something is off. Where most towns in this game have NPCs in or around the town to greet you, Nipton starts off unusually quiet, filled with empty houses and one large fire. Approaching the gates, you get greeted by a single, solitary powder ganger, shouting about how he won the lottery. Trying to question him further will simply have him repeating himself before he runs for the hills, a small clue about what is yet to come. Now throughout the game so far, you can hear people talking about Caesar's Legion, a rival faction of the NCR that believes in a more savage way of life. But up until now, that's all it is, talk. Which is why it comes as such a surprise when all of a sudden you see the chaos that they have caused in Nipton, as bodies lie on the streets and burning in the fires, as the still living lay hanging atop crosses. And at the center of it all stands a squadron of Caesar's Legion, the men responsible for it all. When approaching the leader of the group, he leaves you with one ominous message. Tell the others what you have seen here. Let them know who is responsible. This is what the man out front meant by a lottery. A sick game held by the Legion, where only the lucky few winners would be granted the privilege to win and live. And for a game up to this point to be so lighthearted, to flip the switch so suddenly is so genius, as it's the perfect way to show how truly despicable Caesar's Legion can be in their ways of thinking, priding themselves on the ways of the Roman Empire and its cutthroat methods. But despite all our trauma, we still have a mission to do. So we keep on our way to Benny, making a stop in the town of Novac, a location inspired by a real-life area, complete with the same dinosaur and everything. At the top of the dinosaur we find Manny Vargas, a ranger of the town who knows where Benny went. Now usually in order for him to talk about Benny, we would have to liberate a nearby power plant of ghouls and mutants. But we have the confirmed bachelor perk, which gives us a unique option to charm our way out of the mission, and instead give us the info directly. He says that the Slippery Serpent had headed with his great con crew to Boulder City. Yet again we make our way to the town, talk to an NCR member, who tells us that the cons had kidnapped some people and were holding them hostage. We promise to end things peacefully, and are permitted to enter the area. The cons tell us that Benny had betrayed them, and ran off to none other than the Strip itself. We let the NCR do its thing, and are finally able to enter New Vegas. Or should I say Freeside, since before we can enter the Strip we have to have either a special passport or 2,000 caps to our name, or the Securitron guard out front would shoot us dead. Now us being 500 caps short of our target goal, that's where I'm going to have to leave this game off for now. Now unlike other games we had covered so far, I've actually played New Vegas quite a bit, so I definitely am more familiar with this game and what makes it unique. But I don't want my experience to come off as biased when I say this game is one of the best, if not the best the series has to offer, even if it slightly is bias. But luckily I'm not alone, as most people share my opinions. But it should be said that I am not one of the New Vegas elitists that hates everything else in the franchise. This game is far from perfect. It has outdated graphics, can be a glitchy mess at times, and has a tendency to crash randomly without warning. But damn, in my opinion, nearly all of those complaints are offset by the amazing world and story that this game brings to the table. Everything in the Mojave feels so strangely real, and the way that the major factions, Caesar's Legion, the NCR, and Mr. House, all compete in a power struggle for the resources and fate of the Mojave, has me interested in this game's story each time I play through it. And due to the freedom it gives you in encounters, it's so easy to roleplay as a completely new character. Because the Courier is the perfect blank slate of a character that from the point of waking up in Doc Mitchell's house becomes pretty much whoever you want them to be, since unlike other games they have no immediate connection to the people around them. And that idea of being alone blends itself perfectly to the cowboy and outlaw aesthetic of New Vegas. And I really hope that whatever the next Fallout game may be, that it takes some advice from the Obsidian team when it comes to its development. Now, as always, I would be happy to play this game more on the channel, so if that's something that you guys would like to see, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment down below. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.